Well, this is about the 11th take now that I've tried to make the introduction for today's episode, and I think I'm just going to try and do it this way because my normal introduction is just not coming out of my mouth very well. Welcome, my friends, back to another episode of Minecraft Survival with me, RENDOG'S. Here we are in the middle of Mole City, here on Granny Dog's monument. I've got some bad news to share with you guys today, and yeah, some things have happened in my life that I want to share with you guys, and I want to talk about something really important with you guys today, and I want to talk to you guys today about sacrifice and what sacrifice means to myself and what sacrifice should mean to all of us, really. So I'm just going to do this video in one take. I'm not going to do any cuts. I'm not going to do any editing. I just need to talk with you guys and get this off my chest. And yeah, hopefully that'll help me out, and we will get back to business in the next episode. But yeah, I suppose I should just get straight into it. Last weekend, my grandmother passed in South Africa. My last grandmother, the mother of my own mum. She passed away last weekend, and I've taken a bit of a knock from it, I must say. It's been quite tough. Not because I've been really, really sad, which of course I have been, but because my mum is struggling a lot, and I am the oldest child. I'm my mum's oldest boy, and I don't know, a part of me feels like I wasn't there for my mum, and I felt a little bit guilty about that. But I've been spending the last week or so spending as much time with my mum as I could on Skype and so on. And today was the ceremony and the funeral in South Africa, and I've just spoken to my family, and everybody is okay, and my mum is doing okay, and she is surrounded by family, by my brothers, by my dad, by her family, her brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces and so on, and that's made it a little bit easier for her also, that they are there with her at the moment. So I've just been chilling this last week. I've been taking it easy. I took a few days off work just to sort of sort myself out. As you could see from the beginning of this video, I've spent a lot of time playing Minecraft, which has been great. It's been really, really great. But yeah, just getting my mind off of things. My grandmum was a wonderful lady. She really was. I called her Oma, which is Afrikaans for grandma. And I think a lot of you guys know that too. I think you probably, you guys who are from Holland probably use Oma also. But Oma was a very strong lady, and she went through a lot of things in her life too that were very hard, and she did exceptionally well in her life to live a very good life and do the best that she could for her kids, which she did. I was close with my Oma when I was much younger, but when I came to England, I kind of lost touch with her. I think the last time that I saw my Oma was maybe 10 years ago or so. I still remember the last conversation that I had with her, which was over the phone. And I've been thinking about that conversation a lot these last few days. And it's weird. I think that in that conversation, she knew that perhaps that would be one of the last times that I spoke with her. And what she said to me in that conversation, at the time, I suppose I didn't really think about, because, in my mind, I thought, well, I'll see her again one day and we'll speak again at some point. But when I think about it now, I kind of see what she was talking about. And in that conversation, she told me that, she knew that it had been hard on us, on our family, that we hadn't really seen much of each other for the last few years. And that due to the circumstances of my own life and my own family and all of the things that happened to my own family, it had resulted in us being, not being as close as we could be. But what she said to me was that despite all of that, and despite, being out of touch for so long, she was so incredibly proud of everything that I had achieved. And she supported me and my decisions 100%. And that she would always be there with me, even if it wasn't physically. And I remember the conversation very clearly. Excuse me, sorry. And it makes me happy to think about that, because instead of her being resentful or angry that we weren't as close as we should have been, she was completely accepting and forgiving, which is, pretty much sums up her character in a very good way. I remember some very great things about my Oma that I wanted to tell you guys about today. I remember that she was a big fan of the wet kiss. If she was going to give you a kiss, it wasn't just going to be a little peck, it was going to be if we're going to smooch, we're going to smooch, And she would have no qualms in preparing her lips for a kiss, with a lot of spit. She would lick those chops, and she would grab your face, and she would give you a kiss that you would remember. I always remember that about her. She was a very loving and physical and warm person. She always just wanted to hug you and kiss you and hold your hand and be, family with you. She lived on when my brother and I used to visit her with my mum just after my father passed away. She lived on a farm, and we used to go there to visit her. I can only remember a few occasions of going to this farm, but I distinctly remember one occasion where I was playing outside of the farmhouse. They had a huge farm that used to grow all different types of things, like guavas and watermelons and pumpkins and nuts, and it was an amazing farm. And behind the house of this farm, there was a little pond. And this pond had formed because there was a tap there that was connected to a borehole, is what we call it in South Africa, which is essentially a plumbing connection to an underground water source. And when you turn on the tap, it turns on a pump that pumps out the fresh water, essentially from like a spring. Very, very awesome. But because this tap didn't close properly or completely, it used to drip. And over the years, the many, many years of drippage, it had formed this little pond there, just underneath where the tap was dripping. And I loved this place because the farm was in the north of South Africa, which was very, very hot. It was, super, super hot out there. And this pond was kind of like an oasis in the veldt. It was very cool. There was a lot of moisture. There was a lot of moss and stuff like that there. It was sort of in the shade of a bunch of trees. And in this pond one day I was playing, and I found a frog. A very small little frog. He was just sort of swimming around that pond. Obviously, in his own little world. In an amazing little paradise he was in, I always imagined. And I was so excited about finding this little frog that I scooped him out of the water, and I brought him back into the house. I don't know where my Oma was or where my mum was, but I was in the house, with this frog, playing with him on the table and sort of putting him in a little teacup for a house. And it must have been an hour or half an hour later, my grandmother came back into the house from wherever she was, and and she saw me there, and she said, "Met wat speel jy?" which in Afrikaans means, what are you playing with over there? And I said, well, a frog. I found a frog. And I can remember her facial expression like it happened yesterday, and it was an expression, a mixture of delight at my innocence, but absolute fear for the frog. My grandmother was a great lover of nature, and you know, she could see that the little frog had sort of stopped moving, or you know, had not stopped moving, but sort of, you know, was very, very passive. It had been out of water for quite a long time, and it was dried up. The skin was drying out, and you know, of course, a frog is an amphibian, and it can't be out of water for too long. And she recognized that, you know, me handling it and touching it and playing with it and everything was having a detrimental effect on this poor little frog. And you know, she spoke to me in Afrikaans, always. And she spoke to me in Afrikaans, and she said, you know, that's wonderful that you found this frog, but don't you know that this frog is the prince of the pond? And he has many duties that he needs to attend to in his kingdom. And you've taken him from his kingdom, and we need to get him back really quick. Because if we don't, the kingdom might be taken over by another frog. And of course, this sent my 6 or 7 year old self into an absolute panic. And I couldn't imagine a worse fate for my new amphibian friend than his kingdom being taken over by another frog. And my grandmother picked up the little teacup with the frog in it, and she said, "Kom met me." And I went with her, and we went to the pond outside the house, and there we were standing together, hand in hand, when she released the frog back into the pond. And I remember her eyes, you know, the relief in her eyes as she knew she had saved this poor creature. She truly was a wonderful person. Now, it's been a hard few days for me. It's been hard to lose her, of course, and you know, I've been battling with a lot of guilt because I haven't spoken. The last time I spoke to her was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and before that I hadn't seen her for, you know, 6 or 7 years. So I've been battling with a little bit of guilt, which is normal. But of course, another thing that I've been battling with is a feeling that I made a lot of sacrifices in my life, and I've been questioning those sacrifices and whether they were worth it or not. And you know, we all make sacrifices in this life, and usually sacrifices we make are there to make our lives better, right? For example, I made the choice to leave South Africa to come and live in England about 10 years ago. And that choice that I made came with sacrifice. And the sacrifice, of course, that choice came with was the kind of thing that I'm dealing with this week. You know, time is the only true constant in this universe, and people in your life will come and go, and there's not much that you can do about it. Of course, at the time of making sacrifices, one doesn't really think that far ahead into the future. But now, of course, that moment is here. It's something that I need to accept, and it's something that I need to deal with, that the sacrifice I made to move here to give myself and my future family a better life is going to result in some difficult times for me in the future. Now, I want you to think about your own sacrifices in your life. The sacrifices that you have made for yourselves to make yourselves have a better life. Now I want you to think about whether you are making those sacrifices mean something. You know, one of the strange things about sacrifice is that oftentimes, I think, the sacrifices that we make in life are difficult and often result in negativity. I think that sacrifices are more often than not connected to guilt, right? Because a sacrifice is usually not just a one-way street. Every sacrifice that you make inevitably affects other people. So it's not just you that feels the effect of a sacrifice. My sacrifice to leave South Africa and leave my family obviously affects myself and my family, you know. The reality of my situation is that for the rest of my life, I have to deal with the fact that I will only see my family a few days a year for the rest of my life. And on their side of things, the sacrifice that I have made has meant that they too need to come to terms with the fact that they will only see me for a few days a year. And, you know, this is a sacrifice that myself and my family are working on every single day and every single year. And we're all trying to find ways to come to terms with it and to deal with it. But the real question for me is, am I making this sacrifice that I made mean something? Am I earning the sacrifice that I've made? Or am I letting the guilt and the pain that comes from not being there for my family at times like this overshadow the positive things that the sacrifice that I have made has given me? And that's something that I want you all to think about in your own lives now. I want you to think about the sacrifices that you have made to make your life better. And I want you to think about whether you are making that sacrifice mean something. If you're making that sacrifice you have made worth it. Because if you haven't, well, then maybe you need to rethink. And maybe you need to take steps to, to do something else. For me, if you had asked me that exact question a few days ago, I might have said to you that, no, I don't think the sacrifice that I've made has been worth it. But now that I've had some time to think about it, I think it absolutely is. You know, there's many, many factors around this that I could talk about. But the reality is that my sacrifice has given me the life that I live now that I could only dream of 10 years ago. It has allowed me to do this with you guys. To be able to have a YouTube channel, to be able to create content, and to be able to actually help people like you guys with the words that I say. You know, sometimes I don't think about it enough, and I don't think about how privileged I am to be able to do what I do, to be able to live where I do, to be able to have the things that I have. And the reason that I have all of those things is because of the sacrifices that I've made in my life. Now, the real question, of course, is, am I making the sacrifice mean something? For the last few days, I've been thinking about this, and I think that I am. And I think that for the rest of this year, at the very least, I am going to do everything in my power to make my sacrifices mean something. I'm going to miss my Oma a lot, as I'm going to miss my grandmother too. In 2014, my grandfather also passed. And some of you guys may remember that at the beginning of Season 4, I told you about this area. And the plan was always to build a monument for my grandfather here. And I think that I'm going to build a couple of monuments here. I'm going to build a couple of monuments for both of them. And I'm going to show them that the sacrifices that I've made mean something. And I'm going to earn what I have today because of it. Well, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about today, guys. I know it was a bit of a somber episode. I needed to talk to you guys, you know? I needed to get it out. And I can tell you now that I feel a lot better already. I'm ready. I'm so ready to earn this, you know? And I know that my grannies, my opas, my grandfathers, they're all watching me now wherever they are in the universe. And I need to show them that it was all worth it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I have some ideas for this space here at the lumber mill. But I think I'm going to say goodbye for now. I want to thank all of you guys out there who have been giving me support over the last few days. I have told some of you guys that I'm closer to about what happened. And I also know that there are a few of you out there who are also going through some very, very tough times. And you know who you are. I just want to tell you that my heart is with you guys. And together, we'll get back to the top of that staircase, man. We've been knocked a couple of steps down. But this time around, we're not going to get knocked all the way to the bottom. Oh no, baby. Oh no, no, no. We're going to get to the top. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. It's been RENDOG'S playing Minecraft Survival. And I love you all.